Chair and distinguished senators, for the welcome and for the interaction we've had this morning. Thanks to our constitution, this institutional engagements, the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, is what moves our democracy, and therefore it's always a pleasure for me to appear in Parliament and engage with the people's representatives. Now, let me first respond to the Tharaka Nithi issue, because the statement was about Tharaka Nithi, and then now I escalate to the other issues. And why I am confident that the government will this time round solve this issue is because the problem, when compared to the problems we are handling in other parts of the country, is much smaller. Of course, there have been violence, there have been loss of life, there have been destruction of property, but the resolution, the levers to resolve the disputes are there, and I want to announce that even as we do this graduated approach of resolving this matter permanently, no side, neither of the counties will be treated unfairly. Chair, in that regard, all those who stole land in Tharaka Nithi and Meru counties along that border, using advantage of corruption in land offices, corrupt administrators, and using influence in government to cause injustice and to bring instability among people who are basically one community. All that land, they will lose it. They will lose the land. I say so that, Chair, because, and members, why it has taken forever for government to act is because some of those who are suspected to have fraudulently acquired land in that area were linked to powerful people in government at that time, or they themselves were powerful officials of government. And for now, since I am the Interior Minister and I come from there, and I don't have a single acre of land around that disputed area. So anybody who has land which is not legitimate in that area, simply because they were in power or they are in power now, they will lose the land. They will lose that land. They will lose it. That's number one. Number two, the problem is the civil servants, the administrators, the land officials, they are bribed, then they corrupt here and issue a document that is not legitimate. Likewise, any public official who tries monkey business in that area will face the sack. Number three, the schools that were burnt down, 9 of them, I know them by name. And I know where they were. And they were schools which were registered in the Ministry of Education. The same way we are reconstructing schools in Baringo and Turkana and Samburu and other places where banditry has vandalized school infrastructure. All the 9 schools will be rebuilt and children will go back to school. Number 4, I appeared before the Committee of National Assembly on, I think, regional integration, and I was asked about not national integration, it's another committee. I can't recall which exactly the committee's name, but the committee was about displacement. I think it's the Public Petitions Committee. There was a petition on IDPs in Nyanza and Western. And the case that was being made in that petition is that the IDP issue concentrated on mainly IDPs in Central and Rift Valley, and mainly around the post-election violence. And even then, even in that context, there are IDPs who are affected by the post-election violence, but they did not find their way in either Central or Rift Valley. They fled to Nyanza, where they had come from originally, although they were legitimately living elsewhere. And so they are still IDPs, but they are in Nyanza and Western, and they were not taken care of. And actually, the petition made sense. And I admitted before that committee that, for example, the Mzee Ndege, the one who was burnt, the one who had 9 wives in Naivasha, and all his 9 wives and children were burnt down in one building, and he's the only one who escaped. He was like the poster boy of post-election chaos and its aftermath. Today, I'm told that Mzee is still languishing. He's displaced at home. He tried to marry another wife, but the wife left him because now and he was not compensated, but others were compensated. What I'm driving at is the same way I gave commitment that every IDP in the soil of Kenya will be resettled. Those that were affected in the clashes between Tharaka Nithi and Meru counties, those violent clashes in 1996, 1997, those IDPs that you saw share will be resettled. And therefore, perhaps we will develop a time frame for that process. We'll find a way of compensating or resettling those IDPs, the same way we are doing in other parts of the country. It's government policy. Nobody should be displaced in their own country. Chair, so the schools will be built, the IDPs will be find a way of compensating the IDPs within the broader national policy on IDP resettlement program. That is all for Tharaka Nithi. For the general part, many counties are facing the problems that we are discussing here involving Meru and Tharaka Nithi. Boundaries are emotive. Even international boundaries are even more emotive. Countries have gone to war because of very small spaces of land. There was a country that took another to the International Court of Justice in 1989, actually Botswana and Namibia. They went all the way to the International Court of Justice to try and have a dispute over an island in a river. You know, a river creates an island, and they were disputing whether that island is in this country or the other country. And it was a very bad dispute. So we must prioritize the way we resolve these long-standing issues. That's what I can say about Turkana, the question that was asked about Turkana and its neighboring counties. And the prioritization is as follows. That number 1, and this includes even Tharaka Nithi and Meru, violence must stop. We cannot allow violent behavior as a way of airing grievances. It doesn't matter the nature of the grievance. So violence must stop, and we're going to be very, very strict with violent people and people who want to resolve historical injustices through bloodshed and through crime. That's number 2. That's number 1. Number 2, after we agree that, okay, we have problems, but we will not resolve them through violence, we now go to the next level and ask ourselves, among all these things, resettlement of people, identifying where the beacons are, making sure there are no administrative jurisdictions which are overlapping, which one do we start with first? And from where I sit, the issue of beacons should come last, because many of these disputes is about land and property and possession, what belongs to who, and resources. And you've heard the senator for Turkana, he didn't tell the committee, but he said the CS knows what he did at Laminyeusi, without elaborating what I did. What I did, Chair, so that it is good the public knows what the minister did at Laminyeusi is simple. This is an area where, you know, both counties are saying, oh, this is part of our territory, I don't know what. There are some resources there, and there have been violence there, people have been dying. So we needed to bring order there to stop deaths. And the issue was, some of the leaders were trying to intimidate government that we cannot establish a security facility there, because it will appear as if it's established, it is in this county or the other county. And I called the bluff. In fact, that GSU camp was put up there in 12 hours. Because the existence of a security facility is not associated, because the National Police Service serves the people of Kenya. So likewise, even for Tharaka Nithi and Meru, my sister, the senator, has just said, the committee from both sides got representations from members of the public that we need a facility here, but we can't get it because of boundary issues. So what is the connection between a police station and a boundary? So we'll build the police station. Yes. And it can come from whatever. So we'll build the police station and make sure the place is secure. Then later on we discuss boundaries. So we need a priority of the order of resolving those issues. We unpack the issues and say we start with this, go with this. Then finally we end up with the things that are long-term and are not complicated. Finally, county boundaries, as you're aware, cannot be altered unless there is a referendum. And that, before even that referendum, 2/3 of the National Assembly and the Senate must approve. That is where we are. So the review of because what the senator for Turkana said is true, my understanding is that there were issues of public participation around the enactment of the 1992 District and Provinces Act. And there was a lot of politics around there. And then the earlier one appeared to have been a little more objective. But the Constitution preserves, the current Constitution preserves the 1992 Act. So you cannot amend that Act, because that Act has coordinates. The Act provides coordinates for counties, and it is preserved in the Constitution. Whether you can amend it without touching the Constitution is something that we have to look at. If it can be amended without touching the Constitution, that can be easily done. We can open it up for parliamentarians to discuss, engage the public, and review it. But if it touches on the Constitution, it might not be an easy thing because of Article 188 of the Constitution, on county boundaries touching on counties. Finally, I agree with the Senator for Samburu, Senator for Lamu, Senator for Turkana, that we still have very many unresolved issues. I also agree with the Chair about the situation in Marsabit. Very many, very grave issues that are unresolved. In fact, because I have been out there in the countryside across this Kenya, and especially in the areas that have been for a long time left behind in terms of having a proper grip on security, we have barely scratched the surface. I even wonder when I see people saying, "Oh, Minister, you are doing a good job." I am hardly at 10%, at 5%. I don't know. The issues are grave, and it takes one to go there to interact with the people there to understand. And some of the people who make commentaries and whatever, they do not know what we are dealing with. The situation in Lamu, I agree, grave situation. Yeah. And I was telling Senator Githuku there and the leaders there that I want now to go and camp in Lamu the way I camped in Shakahola until we get that thing out of our way. I want to go and camp in Northeastern. There is no way our country can be the subject of terror attacks through IEDs. We have to win the war. So, Chair, it is a good thing to be appreciated, but from where I sit, I have a lot of journey to travel. And my colleagues have been put on notice, all of them. All of them. All those who are serving with us in this space have been put on notice. We will up our game. National Police Service, the other agencies, including NIS, and so, Chair, I just want to request you for forbearance, for understanding, but I also want to promise we will fix Kenya's security. We will fix the security of Kenya. Marsabit, I agree with you. The robberies in that town are worrying. And I have an outstanding commitment to visit Marsabit for several days. And finally, the NPRs were delayed. We got into a budgetary hiccup towards the end of last year. That's why we slowed down the process. We have now secured the funds. All the NPR related matters are going to be addressed in the next few weeks, including Meru North, where there has been a lot of issues. Isiolo, in fact tomorrow I'm in Isiolo, and then next week I'll do Meru, the Igembe side, because we've lost about 15 people to cattle thieves in a span of 2 months in that area. And then Marsabit also is worrying. The ethnic tensions there, the incitement around ethnic lines is worrying us. It's something that we should rein in. And then finally, Chair, your request on Illiret, the Desanach. You know, I visited that area, but not now as minister, when the accompanied the president, when he was looking for votes. I know Illiret. And I think you are even downplaying what Illiret looks like.
Right.
Yes.
I was complaining.
Yes. The desperation,
It was an politician.
it is in another thing. So that request for sub-county, what you do, my brother senator, is you come to the office, then we see how, and my officers are here, we start a process. I think that's a very deserving case.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a deserving case for Illiret, even as we do generally for the rest of the country. Yes, it is true. We still have criminals in Turkana South Game Reserve, and we will flush them out. That and Laikipia Conservancy, and a bit of Malaso escarpment in Samburu is the remaining places where we have to do some work. The rest of the spaces we had mapped out about 34 gorges, escarpments, and other difficult terrain hideouts where bandits who were causing all this mess around here were retreating and hiding. We have flushed out from almost all of them. That area is remaining, that Turkana South Game Reserve, and the Conservancy in Laikipia here. and 2 or 3 other places. So again, I want to commit to the senator for Turkana and to the committee that we will get criminals from that game reserve. We will get them out of there through all means constitutional. Through all means constitutional. And what that means is that once an area is gazetted and disturbed and dangerous, and members of the public have been warned to vacate, any person who is found there is treated as a criminal, and if they are armed, our officers know what to do with an armed criminal who is trying to threaten the lives of security officers or members of the public. So we will flush them out, we'll clean up the place, and we'll sustain the war against cattle rustling. I know the progress is being eroded in a few places. For Samburu, we have cleaned Baragoi. The problem is in Pura and Samburu West. And we cannot say it here, but we know where we have identified where the gap is. And as soon as we stabilize the situation in Lamu and Boni Enclave and Northeastern, which has disrupted us a bit, that problem there in Pura will be gone in less than a week. It's only that now there's something else we are doing in a few days, and we will finish it the same way we finished Baragoi. And the Baragoi problem will never come back again. For Elgeyo Marakwet, as I finish, for Elgeyo Marakwet and Baringo, that nonsense of stealing their livestock, 90% of the problem is finished. Because 90% of that problem was coming through a place called Koloa Bridge. So again, that Koloa Bridge thing is over. We are now left with isolated cases in the highlands of Pokot, Lelan area, Kamulogon, and Liter, isolated issues. So we will tie this thing up, Chair, and please understand us. We may not be delivering in the speed that is required, but we'll reach there. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to have been invited here.